Understand that anything you now say will be in the video. Please be good. All right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to start my technique with the white pencil. If you're not using the white pencil technique, then you would just move on to the next step after this. So I am going to be propping up my photo here so I can see it. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do this section right in here. Does that sound good for you guys? All right. So I took the time to draw my picture out first, very detailed with the white pencil, and I'm going to go ahead and follow those areas where there's highlights and shadows. So remember, the white pencil is supposed to be my highlights, and then I'm going to let it fade or gradiate out so that I don't cover the shadow areas. So I'm gonna only do like 3 little ripples here because I want to try to keep this demonstration in a reasonable amount of time. Okay, so on this 3rd ripple up here, there is a brighter spot, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. You see that? And then there is another one on the 2nd ripple that's not as bright. And then finally, down in here is a brighter spot in my photograph. Okay, now I already took the time to map out my colors, which is something you're going to want to do. So you're going to look at all the color pencils and you're going to make a decision about what colors are you going to use. So I'm going to pull those out of the set right now. So I am going to use for this sepia, which is for the dark. And there is actually a pencil in here called chocolate, so that's what I'm looking for. Yep, it's called chocolate. If not, I do have a box of white, brown color pencils up here that I bought like 7 or 8 different shades of brown. And I will get chocolate out of there if I can't find it. Let's see. Oh, I do want this one as well. I'm also going to pull out the light umber for my highlights. My favorite pencil for adding highlights that's not white is called Ginger Root. And I would write that down. Ginger Root's going to be your BFF for anything you do. Well, it kind of looks yellow, but if I hold it up, it's beige looking. It's in all the sets, and in this bucket here, I have ginger root, I have cream, and I have a light yellow in here. These are all beautiful colors for light blending where you don't want to use white. Please don't punch each other. Or a fist bump, I guess. Do I not have chocolate in this set? Oh, I'm going to be so sad. Alright, it's okay. I have chocolate up in here. So here's my bin. My super sexy colors. Okay, that's dark umber. Come on, where's my chocolate? Chocolate! Here it is, my chocolate pencil. Alright. A lot of... Oops. Let me get a different chestnut up. Okay. So here, believe it or not, these are the browns that I'm going to be using. So notice I have quite a few colors here, right? So I'm going to use chocolate. I'm going to use light umber. I'm going to use terracotta. I'm going to use sepia, which is my darkest brown. I'm going to use ginger root, and I'm going to use chestnut. Now, chestnut and terracotta are a more red brown. But you'll notice that even though, if you look at the tips, they're 2 very different color pencils. The terracotta is much more red than the chestnut. Okay, my light umber and chocolate have more yellows in them. The sepia is going to be a darker, richer brown. So I'm actually going to start by layering my colors first. Do you guys remember the layering technique? So you don't press really hard in the layering technique. You're just going over the colors, adding the layers until you build the layers up and they become smooth over time. So I personally like to start going light to dark, because if I make a boo-boo, I can always go darker, right? I can't erase and go lighter. So it's better to start lighter. So I'm going to take my ginger root and I'm going to go ahead and add it over the light parts, my white light parts here, and sort of use a gradient on here. And I'm not pushing very hard at all. Can you guys see the color change that's happening? So I'm going to go through and add these in. And now I'm going to go with my next lightest color. So I'm actually going to, light umber visually is a little bit lighter than these other ones, so I'm going to go ahead and add in my light umber color now, and I'm going to sort of gradate it into my ginger root. I'm going to do one section, this little section here completely, so I'm going to gradate that in. I'm going to go in now and I'm going to take my terracotta, because in this part there's a little bit more of this red color over in here. So I'm going to just sort of blend in this red. You can't see it? I'm sorry. And now I'm going to take my chocolate. I'm going to mix this in. Now I'm not going to use every single color in this one section. Some of these, if you look at my photo, you're going to see that this area is lighter in here, but notice how it gets darker over here. So I would use some of these other colors on this side, but not on the lighter side. Okay, and that's why I have so many brown colored pencils right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm adding the chocolate, I'm sorry, the light umber over this. No, it is the chocolate. I lied. A chocolate! All right. And now I'm going to take my sepia, because the lines in between here are fairly dark. And I'm actually going to turn at an angle because the glare is making it hard for me to see what I'm doing. Okay. And already this has come out rather smooth looking, even though on here it looks really harsh, right? So I'm actually now going to go back to my ginger root, and I'm going to use the ginger root as my burnishing color. Do you remember the technique of burnishing? Okay, so instead of using white to burnish like we did, we're not going to use ginger root. And I'm going to go ahead and burnish, and I like to burnish with little circles when I'm trying to blend colors together, and I might go back over it just a little bit with a straighter line. Now the ginger root, I'm going to try to keep it mostly in the lighter area, because this part I want to have it have a little bit of a kick and a shine. I'm also going to try to make sure I stay pretty angled and straight in this so that it is crisp. And I'm now going to just burnish the edge of where my middle tones and my light tones meet. And I'm just going to do that with little circles. Can you see little circles here? Now, and also notice I'm trying to keep my hands off of the parts that are colored, because your hands will smear the pigment around. You don't want to do that. Okay, and then I'm finally going to go back in, and I think at this time I'm going to take my chestnut, and I'm just very lightly now going to burnish the dark value with the medium value here. Okay. And now it looks a little funky, but it's funny how different it looks when you look at it in person versus on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the next section, and what I'm going to do is when this video is done, I'm going to go ahead and put it back on the wall. You guys can check it out, or I'll leave it on the table so you can see it does look a little bit different than the screen is projecting it, because the screen is projecting a lot more intensity of yellow light. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my, so I did my ginger root, so I'm going to go back and get my, do you remember what color? The light umber, and then the chocolate. Okay, so I'm going to just fill this in, and I'm doing my strokes, even though I'm going fairly quickly, my strokes are very even, close together, and I'm not using a lot of pressure, because remember I'm trying to fill the space, but I'm trying to layer, which means I'm not pushing hard. When I push hard, I burnish. Yes? I can do my very best. This is a fairly big piece of paper. There we go. We'll just move the camera. Alright, put that right there. Okay, so then I'm going to go back and grab my chocolate. And I'm going to go ahead and add this in over on this side. Okay, the top part of my spot in here, see how the top, well, you can't see that. This top part up in here has a little bit of darker value. I'm going to have to work some of that darker value in. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my sepia. And I am going to go ahead and add this darker value into my cupcake part up here. Now, there are a couple of colors that you can add to this versus a sepia. I could even go back. I have a color that's pretty dark as well. It's called espresso. And the espresso is almost like a really dark gray brown. It will look almost black. So I'm going to go ahead and add that on top of my value here so that I can really get that dark. Another option would be just to leave the more of the black paper shining through so that I have the black paper to act as my dark, dark, dark value. I'm going to go way back in here with the espresso and get that in. And now I am going to come back with my lovely terracotta, because there is a little bit of a red texture to this. I'm going to go ahead and burnish with the terracotta from the light colors, the mid-tones into the darks. And then what do you think I should do next? What do you guys think I should do next? It's okay to say you don't know. So I'm actually going to go back with my ginger root, and I'm going to burnish with the ginger root now. Okay, I'm going to lean my head at the side again because I'm having a really hard time seeing. And then I'm going to come back on these two, and there's a couple spots I want it to be a little bit brighter, so I'm going to come back with the white on top of where I burnished with the ginger root, and I'm going to add a little bit more of these white highlights. I'm going to burnish just a little bit with this white so I can pop these edges out a little bit more. And it's okay to go back and forth and rework some areas if you're noticing it's not popping the way you want. That's what I'm going to do over here. I'm just going to rework some of these spots. Okay, and then I'm just going to do this last column, and that will be the end of the demonstration for the wrapper, okay? All right, so same thing. I'm going to come back with the ginger root, and I'm going to add in my first layering. And I'm being really careful looking at my photograph to see where do I need to put in these lighter values. I'm going to come back in with my light umber. I'm going to do the same thing, so I'm going to just sort of overlap these guys in here. I need a little less of this color over in these darker areas, so I'm just going to fade it out, so I'm going to gradate it out. I'm going to come in with my sepia just in this dark area. I want to kind of put that in a little bit. Now I also, by the way, you guys, when you want to make brown even darker, when you are mixing paint, you actually add blue. So in some of these areas, if I want it to be a little bit darker, if I come in with a little bit of a dark, dark blue and add that in, it will actually start to make my browns pop and be even darker. Alright, so I got that in, and then I'm going to come back with my chocolate. I'm going to layer the chocolate on top of these now. And because I'm layering the chocolate on top of this blue that I just put in there, it's going to mix and look brown instead of blue. Okay, and I'm going to pay attention to these really dark areas. I have a really dark area right in here, so I'm going to come in with the charcoal, or the espresso. Alright, and now I'm going to burnish with my terracotta. Because this has a little bit of a red to it, so I want to have that little bit of red. Now I'm going to go ahead and burnish this in. Burnish, burnish, burnish. And I'm coming back now to the ginger root to add back in this highlight area. I'm going to pay attention to where all of these highlights are going. And the last thing I'm going to do is come back with a white in a couple of areas where it's needed. I'm going to kind of fade this out a little bit. Okay, and there you go. Cupcake wrapper galore. Okay, I am going to hold it up though so you can see, but really quickly I'm going to pause the video since we don't need a video of me.